So in order to do this, we need to get a little bit more detailed about how we think about strings. Specifically, how does Python see a string? So if I have this text variable called strText, and it's a string that contains the word Bakersfield College with a space in between, how does Python see that? Well, Python sees that as a list, essentially, of characters. 18 characters, or 19 characters to be specific, starting with 0. That's the index, ending at 18. And so Python treats a string just like this, just a list of characters. It doesn't have any meaning in Python because Python doesn't think about things like words or numbers. Not when it comes to a string, just a list of characters. And so string methods have been designed to help us do things with strings that are useful. For example, this one here, string.split. String.split returns a list of smaller strings after the original thing was split. And so here is that in practice. Let's just take a look here. So if I have this string here, and I say li words equals strtext.split, and I don't give it any arguments, and then I print that list, here's what I get. Okay, so I get a list of the words there. Why? Because the default character that split uses, remember we talked about default arguments last time? There's an optional argument here that default is a space character. So what happens is it goes through this list of characters, this string, and when it gets to a space, it says, I'm going to start a new string. And so it breaks them up into chunks, and then it returns a list of those things. And you can see here, notice that the list contains all of the characters in that original string except one. Which character is missing? The space. The space. The space is gone. Why? Because split actually uses that as the place of breakage in that string. So if I say Bakersfield College is a great place, okay, and I run that, you can see that it returns all the words in that, bless you, separated by spaces. All the spaces now are gone. Why would I want to do that? Well, here's a couple of interesting things. If I wanted to, I could print how many words. How many words are there? There are 6 words in that sentence. You might recognize that from a program like Microsoft Word, right? If your teacher says, write a 250-word essay on whatever, and Microsoft Word down at the bottom has that word count, that's all it's doing. It's taking the string, this big essay that you type in, breaking up the words using space, and returning a word count. It's exactly how it works. If I want to, on a normal string, I can print the length of the string, strtext. So I have 37 characters, and I have 6 words. So it's easy to find out information about strings using that split. But don't forget, I can also, if I want to, I could do something like this for str word in li words. If str word is Bakersfield, then print I found Bakersfield, and then break. So what does this do? Once it breaks that up into words, it'll print the length of the words, print the length of the text, and then it's going to go for each word in that list. It's going to say if that word is equal to Bakersfield, then we're going to print I found Bakersfield, and it's going to break. So if I run that, it says I found Bakersfield. If I change that so that it doesn't say Bakersfield anymore, then it won't print I found Bakersfield. So there's an easy way to search through and find a word out of a specific list of words. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Now notice, I want you to notice about this, I'm not doing anything super fancy here. This is all stuff we've covered, except for split. That's the only thing that I just taught you today. Everything else we've talked about in this class. It's all about how you think through this stuff logically and how you put it together. In a lot of ways, solving a programming problem is really like putting together a puzzle. None of the pieces by themselves are that complicated. It's really about how you put them together that allows you to do important things. So that is string split. Join is kind of the opposite. Okay, join allows you to take a list or a collection, not just a list, but it could be any type of collection, and it allows you to glue it all together as a single string. So let's go back to this, get rid of some of these things here, and first I'm going to split that into a list. Then I'm going to print that list, and then I'm going to put it back together. str new equals, and the way join works is I have to give it a character to use as the glue, or a string to use as the glue. So instead of gluing it back together with a space, I'm going to use the underscore character. So I'm going to use that, and join is a string method, so I use that.join. The argument I give join is the list that I want to glue together, so li words. And then if I print str new, you can see, okay, so here is the list after I break it apart, and here's what it looks like gluing it back together. When might this be useful? If you want to take a string and convert it to a viable variable name or a viable file name, where spaces aren't really welcome, that's a good way to do it. Okay, so here is what join does. Join returns, it doesn't change the list into a string, it takes the list and it uses that plus this character to create a single string that contains all of those pieces but glued together. So on join, we start with the glue. It's glue.join, and the glue is just any string. It doesn't have to be a single character. Okay, I don't know why I would want to do this in particular, but that is something you can do. Sort of goes along with the adage, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay, so we've got string.find. String.find will tell you where inside a string it finds another string. I remember before when I looped through this string to find the word Bakersfield. There's another way to do this that's a little bit easier. If I have str text, and let's say I want to find out where is the word is. So I'm going to say str text dot find is, and I'm just going to print out what it returns to me. Okay, so where in this is the word is? I run that, it says 20. That's what it. Now it doesn't find is 20 times, obviously, in that string. The 20 represents the index of the first character. It represents the index of the first character. Now, if I give it a string to look for that's not in the search string, it returns -1. So -1 says that string that you're looking for is not in the string that you're searching. So that's another useful thing, right? If you want to find out if something is in another string really quickly and easily, you can use find, and if it returns -1, that means it's not there. If it returns anything other than -1, that means it found it somewhere. Now, keep in mind that it's not looking for the whole word. It's just looking for anything that matches this. And in this case, it returns 0. Don't make the mistake of thinking 0 means it didn't find it. 0 is the index of the first character, right? So 0 is the index of the first character. If it doesn't find it, it will return -1. If it says 0, all that means is that it found it right here at the very beginning of that string at index 0. So string .find is very useful. Keep in mind, all of these are in the function reference in Canvas for the site. So you can go look at the details of this each time you need to use them. Length, or len, is a Python function, okay? It is not a string method. It's a Python function, but we can use it with strings or lists or any collection type. If we use it with a string, it will tell us how many characters are in that string. If we use it with a list, it will tell us how many things are in that list, how many items are in that list. So also very useful. Count. Count and length are often confused with each other. Count doesn't tell us how many things are in a list. Count tells us how many things are in a list that match the argument that we give it. So this is a list method. So in this example, we have a list of fruits. And count says li fruits dot count, and I'm going to give it as an argument the thing to look for. Okay. When I do that, it says 1. If I have apple in there twice, it will say 2. If I say orange, It says 0. So remember, find, if it doesn't find anything, will return a -1. Because a 0 on find means that it found it in the first character. When we're doing the list method, count to look for a specific value, it's actually counting how many times it finds that in there. It's not returning a position, so 0 means it didn't find any. I know it's a little bit of extra stuff to keep straight in your head, but that's why I created the function reference and put that into the class. I want you to be able to very quickly and easily go back to these and see and play around with it. This example code, you can copy and paste into PyCharm and just run it and see what it does. That's the whole point, is kind of playing around with this stuff, seeing what it does.